What's up guys, welcome to this lesson. In this lesson we're going to be learning about musical intervals. Now what is a musical interval? Well, a musical interval is a distance between one note and another note. So for example, from the key of C to the key of G, that is a musical interval. From the key of D to the key of E, that is a musical interval. So the distance between one note and another note, that is the definition of a musical interval. Now, we're going to be learning about different types of musical intervals in this lesson. So yeah, let's start. Now, whenever you move from one key to the next key, so for example, if you move from the key of C to the key of C sharp, that is known as moving up by a half step or by a semitone. So moving from one key to the next key is known as moving up by a half step or by a semitone. So if I move from the key of E to the key of F, that means that I've moved up by a half step or by a semitone. So if I move from the key of B to the key of C, that means that I've moved up by a half step or by a semitone. So if I move from the key of D to the key of D sharp, then that means that I've moved up by a half step or by a semitone. See that? Now, if I move from one key to another key and I skip a key in between, so for example, if I move from the key of C to the key of D, I've skipped the key of C sharp in between. Therefore, this means that I've moved up by a whole step or by a whole tone. So moving from one key to another key and skipping a key in between is known as moving up by a whole step or by a whole tone. Of course, if you move from one key and you move down to another key and you skip a key in between, then that means you've moved down by a whole step or by a whole tone. And if you move from one key down to the next key, so for example from the key of C to the key of B, then that is known as moving down by a half step or by a semitone. See that? Now if I move from one key to another key and I skip two keys in between, so for example, if I move from the key of C to the key of E flat, I've skipped the key of C sharp and D in between. So this means that I've moved up by 1.5 steps. If you look, you'll see that from year to year is a half step, from year to year is a half step, from year to year is a half step. So 3 half steps makes 1.5 steps. 3 times 0.5 equals 1.5. See that? So the key thing is to remember that moving from one key to the next key, whether up or whether down, is moving by a half step or by a semitone. See that? So if I move from the key of C to the key of E, can you guess how many half steps I've moved by? Well, I've moved by 4 half steps, which is equivalent to 2 whole steps. See that? So from year to year is 1 half step. From year to year is 1 half step. So we've got 2 half steps so far. From year to year is 1 half step. So we've got 3 half steps. From year to year is another half step. So we've got 4 half steps. And 4 half steps makes 2 whole steps. 4 times 0.5 equals 2. See that? Now, let's talk about what an octave is. Now, what is an octave? Well, an octave is the distance between a particular key and the same letter key. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, this is what I mean. So, for example, if we pick the key of D. Now, the distance between this D and another D, so for example here, the distance between this D and this D, that is known as an octave. So the distance between any particular key and the same letter key is known as an octave. So for example, the distance between this key of E flat and this key of E flat, that is known as an octave. So the distance between this key of F sharp and this key of F sharp, the distance between these two keys is known as an octave. The distance between this key of A flat and this A flat, the distance between these two keys is known as an octave. So yeah, that's it for this lesson, guys. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next lesson.